Uncle Jacques, who swap on Black Power family. What up? It's your brother in Google, now you see R-A-N-M. And once again, R-A-N-M, RBG, TV. That's right. We keep it G. Going uncut, common sense for the common people. Dealing with the common issues, family, you already know we're trying to seek those common solutions. Here we go. So what's the method, the model, mantra, motivation, and the madness? How we gonna get out of this? Say with me, family, you already know, family, that it is the one and only Black Love, because Black Love is the cure for the Black nation. So let's get it. All right. We're going to do something special tonight. This afternoon, this morning, whatever time you're watching this. We're going to do something special. And we're going to have the opportunity to basically, metaphorically speaking, sit at the feet of an elder Garvey, who's walked this life basically her entire life. She goes by the name of Queen Mother Samad. Originally from Harlem, New York. You already know what it is. And now she resides in Jamaica. Not sure exactly what parish, whatever, but nonetheless, she resides in Jamaica at the present moment. This radio interview was taking place back in August during the celebration of the month of Messiah, also known as August, Black August, in the year of 2014. So it's a couple years old, but nonetheless, the information that is being shared is beyond vital and beyond relevant, even to this day. The sister was 92 at the age, so God willing, ancestor willing, she's still with us. You know what I mean, in the physical. But if she has transitioned into the realm of the Agun, we do say Ashe and give thanks. But nonetheless, family, what I need you to do is sit back and relax, get comfortable, get your notepad, get your ears ready. I want you to really just open your mind up to what this elder is bringing to the table. More and more, you know what I'm saying, day as we go on day by day, night by night, or whatever the case may be, I'm starting to see the impact, man. The UNIA is starting to come back around. That whirlwind is blowing nonetheless, and people are starting to get caught up in it. So I got to say, I share that. Big ups. You already know how 432, you know how we do. You dig? A lot of people are asking questions. A lot of people are doing their homework. A lot of people are starting to come back to the foundation. You're making things happen nonetheless. But nonetheless, I don't want to give it away too much. You're gonna sit back, listen to the Queen Mother as she say what she has to say. She's being interviewed by the UNIA historian himself. Sit back, man, get comfortable, man. It's R&M RBG TV. It's your brother in Google, now you see R&M. Uncle Jacques, who swap on Black Power. Always remember that Black love is the cure for the Black nation. So let's get it. I'll see y'all in a minute.
Ending tension between the institutional values of race, gender, and wealth, which give undue and unearned privileges and advantages to some so that others cannot compete on an equal basis for the resources of this country.
Our people have resisted for 413 years in this wilderness, and they resisted for this generation to carry out what must be done. We cannot fail our ancestors.
There's already
so much evidence that we are waking up, beginning to acknowledge the reality. Something stinks.
If we are going to have to fight, we're going to have to struggle, we're going to have to struggle relentlessly to bring about the peace, because the people that we're asking for peace, they're a bunch of megalomaniac warmongers, and they don't even understand what peace means. So we've got to fight them, we've got to struggle with them, and they don't understand what peace means.
Everybody knows that all the people gonna have liberty, all the people gonna have freedom, all the people gonna have justice, and all the people gonna have power. So that means none of us do. Take this country and change it. Turn it upside down and put the last first and the first last.
The preservation of history is a primary responsibility of any people.
There is only one answer, only one answer. Revolution. Full revolution.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
African world, what's happening? This is our mix with our like Dr. Hate in for Dr. Jared Ball, co-hosted once again while he is on the world tour with the family. He's going to come back on fire from Panama talking that good stuff. So we're looking forward to having the brother back next week. In the meantime, we're going to continue hating and exploring the Garvey world as we do it in Black August, Black Fist Friday, Freedom Friday. Every Friday that you could think of that'll get African people liberated. That's what we're trying to do in this 1 hour of radio on WPFW 89.3 FM. And we have with us on the line a few guests. I want to introduce the first guest and stay grounded with my brother, Dr. Quito J. Swan, associate professor at Howard University, a Garveyite scholar himself, Pan-Africanist, one of the baddest men with the first step on the planet. Baba Swan, you there?
Yes, sir. What's up, Baba? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And we also have live in the studio once again a brother who, without this, his presence, we wouldn't be able to have the same kind of intellectual, invigorating discussion about Garvey. We got Mwariama Kamau, and he is an UNIA-ACL international organizer since 1997. He's been in the movement, and he began in the movement by studying the Garveyites who have been in there doing their work since 1940, Garvey's Ascension. And we have on the line with us a special guest that I'll allow my brother Kamau, Baba Kamau, to introduce.
Yes, sir. Greetings. Yes, sir. We have on the line with us today the Queen Mother, matron of the Garvey Movement today, one who is known for saying that she was Garvey born, Garvey bred, and if she ever dies, she'll be Garvey dead. That's the Honorable Queen Mother Mariamne Samad, who hails from Harlem, New York, by way of Kingston, Jamaica now, where she has lived now for about 40 years. Is that right, Queen Mother?
That's right.
Well, I wanted to introduce you as an elder Garveyite who has lived a long, beautiful black life, and one who could talk intimately about growing up in the Garvey movement. And if you would like, I'd like to hear your thoughts on, from birth to the present, your experience. We only have a limited time, but growing up Garvey in the UNIA, when were you born and what was the context of your birth?
Born in Harlem Hospital. In fact, I was almost born on the floor of the Liberty Hall. But they rushed me across the street to Harlem Hospital. But my favorite times as a youth in the organization were the parades. Excuse me, I just gotten out of bed, so my throat is kind of, out of whack. But my days in the organization, as I said, were the parades. They were magnificent. And you had a feeling that we really were going to be somebody. We were going somewhere with those parades. Thousands of people on the sidewalk watching the Garvey people. Well uniformed, beautifully, trained in their movements. It was spectacular. And it sort of put you up in the eyes of the people. Well, I lived in Harlem as a youth. until J. Edgar Hoover chased us out of the United States. Then I went to my father's country in British Guiana. Well, there was a Garvey movement there, but not as spectacular as the one in Harlem. I think I was very privileged.
We're talking live with Mama Mariam, Queen Mama Mariamne Samad on WPFW 89.3 FM. We got Dr. Quito J. Swan with us on the line and Mwariama Kamau in studio. And let's give some background context for Queen Mama Samad. Born in 1922 into the Garvey Movement, as she said. Your mother was a Black Cross nurse and a member of the Motor Corps. Can you tell us a little bit about what your mom did as a member of the Black Cross nurse?
The Motor Corps, she was Motor Corps first. I think they became Black Cross nurses at a certain age as they began to get older. But the younger mother, my mother, Uzuni Allman, she was Alice Allman, but in a dream someone came to her and gave her the name Uzuni, which she loved. I think it had a strange spelling, Oozoni, very African, I guess. But in the Motor Corps, they were good-looking, well-trained in their formations. They were trained to take down a car, a motor car, in so many minutes and put it back together. Really Motor Corps. But besides that, Mother was in charge of the children. Elocution, the business of speaking and studying, reading, all of that. It was just wonderful watching my mother. She wasn't much of my mother because she belonged to all of the children in the organization. But she was wonderful. And then when she got to a certain age, I think she went off into about 55, then she became a Black Cross nurse. They were good looking. And they had to study every facet of medicine that was allowed to the, the non-medical person. They had to know first aid and how to take care of a nosebleed in the moment. So she was a very wonderful black mother in comparison to all the other mothers around me. That was my mother. Daddy was an undercover man in the organization. I don't know if you know about that. Garvey had a lot of undercover men.
Oh, yeah,
They didn't wear uniforms, but they were into everything.
Yes, ma'am.
And a night of the round table?
Yeah. That was held at my home. I can remember that. And they really had a round table that disappeared in case anybody came who shouldn't know that they were meeting. This table could come apart in a moment. The round table where they discussed all of the problems and all of the progress of the organization. And they spread across the land. I was very delighted as I grew up and found out that there were other men who belonged to the round table. I knew that they were real. But it was a round table.
And this was a secret society.
Came apart. What's that?
This was a secret society.
Yes.
Okay.
And in many of the pictures around Garvey, you see the men in civilian dress. They were knights of the round table. They didn't wear the beautiful uniform. Oh, those uniforms are out of this world. But they didn't wear the uniform. They had them if needed, but they just ordinary civilians. And they were into everything. You had to be with Garvey because, everybody wanted to kill Mr. Garvey. So they surrounded him.
And you were talking about being a youngster seeing the parades.
In the parade. I was in the parade.
And as you're in the parade, what was that experience like for you?
Wonderful. Wonderful. We were more or less lionized by the people on the sidewalks, the viewing people who viewed the parade. We were special. We looked good. We had to rehearse all of the movements in a parade. So, you know, it was perfection. And your friends in school, when they saw you, you know, next week, you were, really looked up to.
Now this is before the Macy's. This is before the Macy's parades that we see now on TV.
You're seeing the parades there in the United States, huh?
We get some Macy's, like the department store Macy's Day parades.
Yes.
And this is before those parades.
There was no buffoonery, you know. There was no balloons and things like that. This was strictly military from beginning to end, and the wonderful musicians in between each group, you know. Yes, the big parades like that.
Mama Samad, this is Quito, Swan. I feel really blessed to have the opportunity to speak with you today. My own work on Garvey in Bermuda is also evident that these parades had a big impact on the community. I interviewed a few members of the juvenile wing of the UNIA, and they expressed just saying enthusiasm. My question is, did the children of the Garvey movement, did you maintain those relationships as you got older? And some of the other children in the Garvey movement, what did you all do with?
The funny thing about it, the answer is no. Once we grew up, just about that time in my day, the organization had begun to, you know, fall apart. And like I said, we ended up in South America. And we left the United States when I was 9. J. Edgar Hoover had moved into the organization. When I was 9 years old, to 13 in South America, at that time British Guiana. And Daddy went into the gold business, you know. He was a bush die-die, he was called. He went looking for gold and diamonds. Now, when I got back to the United States, many of us now teenagers, we worked together for quite a while until we got married. Getting married, according to who you marry, I married a Garveyite, Garvey Legion. But most of the girls didn't marry Garvey Legion, so we sort of split up there.
And one of those friends of yours who grew up in the Garvey movement with you was Muriel Pettione?
Yes. Yes. How did you know about her?
Queen Mother?
Yeah.
You know, I've been sitting at your feet now for a couple years, and I listen to everything you've ever said carefully.
Oh, she's wonderful. I didn't know that she was that much older than me, because really she wasn't a juvenile, you know. She was more or less a member, very important member to the organization. And when I found out that she was actually almost 11 years older than me, I was surprised. But Muriel Pettione and I went to school, music school together.
Yeah, she later became one of the...
She was studying medicine at one of the black universities.
Yeah,
I don't know whether, I can't remember whether it was Howard or what it was.
Yeah, it was Howard University. Her father actually had graduated with a medical degree from Howard, and he was one of the signatories for the UNIA International Convention in 1920, Dr. Charles Pettione. But she later became a great giant in the medical industry in New York, kind of revered.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Dr. Pettione, and there was another one, Dr. Savory. These are great men, which when the FBI tried to make the organization look inane as if it wasn't interesting, we had all these wonderful, very well-educated men. Dr. Pettione, Dr. Savory. I remember they were Caribbean men, mostly, you know, but they loved Garvey, and they were true to him and his organization. And you had people like Muriel Pettione, who, she was a medical doctor. They would be in their offices, and they were propagating Garveyism, you know, within the ranks of what they were doing. You wouldn't believe they were Garveyites, you know, because the Garvey organization was always being put down as if we were, you know, a bunch of freaks. But you had all these wonderful people. We had a lawyer in Harlem. I don't remember his name at the moment, but there's nothing that he was asked to do for the organization or come to the organization meetings that he would back off from. Many of them did, but not him. He was always there. A wonderful man.
Is that Renald J. Williams?
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, Renald, or sometimes they call him VJ, but Renald, he actually, well, if it's the one I'm thinking of, he did a lot of legal work for the UNIA, but he was actually married to Miss Ethel Collins' sister, Doris Collins. But yeah, he was one who, you know, demonstrated the faithfulness people had to Mr. Garvey's idea and vision, and had unfailing support for the movement.
Now, you just told me something. You said Ethel Collins' sister. I didn't know Ethel Collins had a sister.
Yeah.
So now I'm learning too. Yes, well, that could be who I'm speaking of. A wonderful lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, see, the organization was being put down a lot, even by the Amsterdam News, you know, so that when we in the organization knew about these wonderful, these grand people, these educated people, these caring people, it made you feel kind of special.
That's right.
You had contact with the best.
Yeah, and there was certainly a time when we did a whole lot more with less, and more dignified.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, later on your mother would join the Garvey Club, and she was quite active, along with Ethel Collins and some others, as the secretary of the Garvey Club.
Yes.
And you mentioned to me certain people like Colonel Cecil A. Walters, who was a pilot, along with Edison McVeigh. There's a photo of him.
A wonderful
with
man.
Bessie Coleman. Yeah, these were some giant, you know, geniuses, engineers, pilots. You know, these were great people that many would have you think the organization was full of poor, ignorant, you know, rough-raff, and you know, not some of the giants
fish
that we
market
produced.
people, you know. Not that I'm putting down the fish market, but we were not supposed to be intelligent at all. And I know for sure. You know, I remember sitting as a senior juvenile in the back row at 169 West 133rd Street. And this young man came in, slid in, and sat next to me. And I looked at him, he had this head full of hair. You know, what is it, the big hair look wasn't popular then, but this young man came and sat next to me, and I looked at him askance, and I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Kwame Nkrumah." I said, "Kwame Nkrumah? What is that?" He said, "Well, I'm a Garveyite." Now, that turned out to be the great Kwame Nkrumah, and I had sat next to him. Mm-hmm. You know, as the president of Ireland.
Ghana, yeah.
These people, you know, I think Ho Chi Minh even came into New York to see where this great man was. And one of the things that I found out in the sideline thing, a man very much involved with Emperor Haile Selassie, he told me that they found the philosophy and opinion in Hitler's library. So I said to myself, well, you mean to tell me all these guys with race first came out of the Garvey Movement?
Yeah, I'm sure he inspired that aggressive nationalism all over the world.
Yes! Yes!
Hitler was a great Pan-Africanist. He brought more of us together than a little bit.
And the Europeans been studying from Africans from time immemorial. Goodness.
Yes, man.
What is that, Dolly?
As I was saying, the Europeans have been studying at the feet of Africans since time immemorial.
Yes. Very much so. Very much so. Because this man who told me that was very much into being involved with Emperor Haile Selassie, so he got around. And he knew facts. And when he told me, he said, you know, they found the philosophy and opinion in Hitler's library. I was thrilled. You know, that's why I love Garvey to this day, because this was a man who died at 53. 53? That's a baby to me, you know. I'm 92 and I haven't done anything in comparison to this man at 53 who put the whole world up on its toes. I'm very proud of him. The Ku Klux Klan love him. Can you imagine? A lot of people are upset because he went to visit the Ku Klux Klan. But that's why I loved him, because he wasn't afraid of anybody.
That's right.
They loved him because he wanted for his people what they wanted for theirs.
Mama Samad,
yes.
Do you have any recollections of Amy Jacques Garvey?
What is that? Was that Amy?
Amy. Yes.
I knew both Amy's.
Okay.
Because
Can you speak about them?
Amy Jacques came into New York and they put her with Walters, Colonel Walters, and she was very upset about that. She wanted to be put up in the Waldorf, and I remember her almost knocking me down the stairs at 201 West 116th Street because she was so angry. Amy Ashwood, I knew her very well. In fact, she had been given a huge kente in Ghana, and I was the person who turned it into a beautiful two-piece suit for her. She wanted me to split it in three, a piece for her, a piece for me, and a piece for another daughter of hers. And I said, no, I took the whole thing and I made it into a beautiful suit for her. I knew both of them.
What would it like
I didn't like Amy Jacques at all, her personality. But then I realized that, but for her, we wouldn't have had the philosophy and opinion, and a lot of writing. So I had to change my mind about her.
That's right. Well, you thank you for being quite open and honest, Queen. Okay, so I wanted to ask you another question.
Did I tell you that the organization, outside of sending their quarters to Garvey so he could buy those ships, a bunch of cheapskates.
Yeah, you've told me about that one. I wanted to know if you could tell us. I know you mentioned you had met and known Malcolm and some others. Well, I guess you're a little older than Malcolm, actually, but some of the great people that came through. What do you remember about Brother Malcolm X?
I was very close to him. I worked for two lawyers on 125th Street, and at lunchtime I would go over to the bookstore, and Malcolm would be there, and we would talk, and I remember wagging my finger in his face and saying, if you don't shut up, they're going to kill you. He said that's all part of it. Yes, I knew him very well.
And your husband knew him pretty well also?
Very much so. In fact, my husband was his imam, his secret imam. He would come to the house like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and learn from my husband all of the, things that he had to do going over to the Mecca. My husband taught him all of those things. And, naturally, we didn't know how important. In those days, my husband knew, but, the rest of us didn't know that Malcolm would turn out to be so very important. So, instead of me getting up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and sitting in on these sessions, I would sleep. The children were sleeping in their rooms, and I was sleeping in my room, and there was the Brother Samad out there in the living room, carrying Malcolm through all of the ramifications of what a Muslim does. Malcolm was a wonderful person. He had a bad reputation before coming into the organization, but once he got into the organization, he was wonderful. Really, he was really, he was someone that the young people could look up to.
That's right.
Queen Mama Samad, I wanted you to talk about your first trip to Africa, what that was like for you, what that meant for you.
Well, I started off in Senegal, and in fact, when I came in on the plane, because of the time change, we got in about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was so surprised. Why, the place was beautiful. The hostesses there who greeted us in these French outfits, they were cute. And I remember the bright yellow color. And I said disappointedly, but I thought we were going to be drummed in and, the bush houses. And no, very, very modern, very beautiful, right across West Africa. Everything that I saw was not what we were being taught in the United States, like people living in houses and huts in the trees. These people were living in fabulous houses. And my first trip to Africa, right across West Africa, in fact, I have a son, let me see, he's married to my granddaughter, and he's from Mali. And I remember when I went into Mali, they sold gold all along, the airstrip. And I said, my God, this is not what we're hearing in America. My first trip to Africa was wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Disappointing because I thought I was going to be drummed in, and I was going to see all these hats, thatch houses. But pure loveliness, my first trip to Africa.
And what was the purpose of that trip?
Just to go snooping, to find out what Africa was all about. I went with a Christian church, a church that is now situated on Lenox Avenue and 123rd Street, I think. Reverend Lawson's church. And at the last minute, I found out that they were going. And it was just wonderful having all the young people stop buses to raise money for me to go to Africa. And they had been raising money for almost a year, but I didn't know about it. So at the last minute, when I found out about it, and I told my girls from the Sankore Nubian Cultural Workshop that I had formulated in the organization, they went out on the street, and we even had some Puerto Ricans in the Bronx raising money, stopping the bus, and said, this lady wants to go to Africa. We need money. The people threw money in the hat. And I was able to go. Within a week, I was able to go to Africa. I just wanted to go.
And the Reverend Lawson, that's James Lawson of the United African Nationalist Movement, brother?
Yes.
Okay. And
now that was no. That was his uncle. I think. The Lawson who formed that church with my grandfather, Nelson Brooks. That church, Refuge Temple, was formed in my grandfather's apartment in Harlem with this Lawson. But he was family to your Lawson, our Lawson, I should say. I knew him very well.
Right.
His wife said that she didn't know that she was black.
If anyone want to know about James Lawson, they can look at the hate produced. He's prominently displayed on that, along with some other Harlem street speakers. And I wanted you to, if you could, tell us a little bit about your escapade, I guess you could say, in the clothing industry and the creation of the dashiki.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I developed that because I realized that in the school system, my little boys were, failing and not being something to bring them together. And then it occurred to me, that shirt that at the United Nations that the Africans were wearing, I'm going to copy that shirt. And I asked them what was the name of the shirt that they were wearing. Very simple. And I made them up. I didn't have any money to buy anything, cheap us. And so I took sheets, white sheets, and I made these little darasa shikalaki, which meant stitch. One of the principals, when I put them on the boys at PS 68, oh, they looked beautiful. And I chose the darkest boys to put them on. And boy, their little spines sort of straightened out when they keys. And the principal said to me, you're going to have to change the name because that makes the whole audience laugh. So I went home, put it on the board, And out of that came the da, from the rasa, the da, chikala, T. T is the people. And the midst of it, the stitched shirt of it. And there were quite a few people after that who learned to make them because they were very easy. And they would say that their grandmother, showed them how to make. Thank you for allowing me to say so. I sold them for $3. I'm in trouble now right here in Jamaica from lending people money and not taking interest call because, Mr. Garvey says we must help our people. And we don't do it. We don't do it. That's part of our problem. As God gave. And, in my day, I don't remember seeing anybody 92 years old in the organization because the old people in those days were in their 60s. But like somebody of my age today, you would be in an old folks' home, or in the back room or basement of a family. You didn't see 90-year-olds. But I'm very much seeing.
Yes, man. We are live with Queen Mother Mariamne Samad, Elder Garveyite, Harlemite, now living in Kingston, Jamaica. We're on the line with us, Mwariama Kamau in the studio, and I am Dr. Haight sitting in absence of Dr. Jared Ball, who is on a world tour with the family in Panama. With WPFW 89.3 FM, and come right back with more stories from the history of the UNIA and Queen Mother Mariamne Samad. All right, we're back with our mix, what I like, WPFW 89.3 FM. Mwariama Kamau in studio, Quito, Swan on the line, and Queen, Kingston, Jamaica. We would like to continue Queen Mama Samad. I'm going to ask Dr. Swan if you want to jump in and ask any questions and anything that we've discussed thus far.
Yes, I do have a question. Mama Samad, I'm reading about you, and she speaks about how you were a Black Power activist for most of your life. Could you speak to us about those experiences and maybe also and the Black Power movement?
Queen Mama Samad is going to rejoin us on the line. Dr. Swan is one of the experts. Don't let them fool you out there with any of these people talking about a life and dark days and bright nights.
Yeah, are we still there?
We are. Swan, contextualize your internationalism of Black Power as we get Mama Samad back on the line.
Well, for me, the interesting thing is, I think to understand both the UNIA, Garvey, and Black Power, we're really asking ourselves to understand the African world in different moments in time, but also the same larger moments in time. And so I think that for me, it's important not so visible connections between ourselves and our movement, and I think there's something inherently significant about the migration patterns of African people, Charles Garvey, the UNIA, to be so successful. And then we often seem to lose our Garveyism somewhere in the 1950s, so to speak. Not that people lose it, but our quote-unquote academic memory of it seems to go missing. But if you look at a book like Amy Jacques Garvey's Black Power, which they're talking about, Garvey and the connection to the Black Power movement, I think that if we're going to talk about Black Power, it's very, very important to understand how Garvey informs that. So to have someone like Mama Samad who goes from the UNIA and continues to be involved in Black Power activities, I'm sure her experience speaks to the plethora of others that may have done similar as well. So I would love to get her feedback about that.
All right, and do we have Queen Mama Samad? Are you back on the line with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. We're very happy that you're still with us. Thank you for staying on with our Mix What I Like at WPFW 89.3 FM. Ask that question, please.
Yes, Mama Samad, I was reading Carolyn Cooper's article about you, and she mentions that you were a Black Power activist, those experiences, and also tell us more about the connection between Garvey and the Black Power movement.
Actually, Kwame Ture, who coined the word Black Power, they say, he was a staunch Garveyite himself. You know that. And Black Power, to walk tall, that you dressed properly, that you were, to the best of your ability individually, you had to be a good, that was what Black Power, it meant cleaning out our own act in the Western world. To me, that's what it meant, which I try to keep going to this day. And I'm quick tooting on the street, no, you don't do that. Mr. Garvey told us, the children look at me with wide eyes, Mr. Garvey, well, Mr. Garvey, you know, some of them know that Mr. Garvey is dead, and something Mr. Garvey said, that we don't do that, we don't fight one another, that we're special to one another. That's what Black Power meant to me. But it's lost somewhere along the way now. Yes, there was a time, if you notice, Kwame Ture died when he was 39. To me, were special angels sent to us by God. I know there's an old cranky old lady, but have done so much to young.
Back doing what they do best and literally tapping the ball. You right back and get that line cleared up. FBI, can you hold us off for about 20 minutes? And then we'll go back to your usual activities, please. And we will call you right back.
Don't worry about them tapping. Don't worry, they're in trouble.
They are in trouble. We got them. Garvey.
They're in trouble. Sure, darling, I'm here.
Please continue on that, on Black Power. Mwariama, I'll jump right
because, yeah, certainly Queen Mother Samad was an advocate of Black Power, race pride, etc. in Harlem, New York, as well as there were a number of other prominent Garveyites who she can talk, well about, and she knew quite intimately who were advocates of the Black Power. Certainly Carlos Cooks and many of the street speakers of that day in Harlem, who were the first to do, Black is Beautiful, beauty pageants, Miss Africa, the Grandassa models. They have Grandassa being the name for Africa in the African Nationalist Pioneer Movement, as well as the Buy Black campaigns. Many of the elements you'll notice of Black Power that eventually became a national and international phenomenon kind of were rooted in people who were second, third generation Garveyites. And, Queen Mother Samad can elaborate, I guess, on, some of the Black Power with Carlos Cooks. And I remember one of the other Garvey elders, Nana Prempe, used to tell me about some of the jazz legends. His brother, also being a jazz legend who was, an advocate of Black Power, along with some of his good friends, Abby Lincoln and Max Roach and some of these other folks. But I was telling him about Carlos Cooks and some of the advocates of Black Power in Harlem.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. Very much so. He was stern. In fact, everybody wanted me to marry him. Or he marry me. But I wasn't going to marry him. He was too stern. He was strict. And you'd be surprised, he was a little light-skinned guy, which, used to puzzle me because he was so black. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
He's a light-skinned guy who is so black. He really was.
Yeah, he was an ultra-black nationalist to the highest.
That's what I'm talking about.
Highest order.
Queen Mama Samad, who are some of the other members of the Garvey that stood out in your mind and stand out today?
The brother who developed the Black Doll, and he happened to be the uncle of Joe Lawson also. Yes. In fact, I remember when they had his body at the Renaissance ballroom, I slipped a doll. As I passed his body, I slipped and found it. But I slipped a small black doll in his coffin. Because that's what I had grown up with.
And this is before the Kenneth Clark doll study. What were the opinions of Kenneth Clark and those doll studies and the kind of psychological work that Kenneth Clark was claiming that segregation, self-identity, and the self-esteem of black children and black youth?
Is that the one where the children chose the white doll? He had a school on 110th Street,
No.
He had a wonderful school for training black children on 110th Street. But I remember now, I see as I walk through the big stores here in Jamaica, black mothers buying, well, at 92, I don't bother saying anything anymore. I said, what the hell are you doing buying a what? Surprise, what's the difference? And I stop and explain to them the difference. You know, she's the mama of a white child. And what surprise, about a week ago, there was this beautiful young black woman with her beautiful baby girl, and she was dragging along. Maybe meant something. But I was quite surprised to see that it's still the same thing in history, in our history. In our history. Not understanding.
It was the reggae music where
What's that?
It was the reggae music where I first learned about Marcus Garvey as a child. Songs like 7 Miles of Black Star Liners, Coming in the Harbor. I know you've been in Jamaica for a number of decades.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how has the Rasta community, how does it remember Garvey? And what's the significance for Garveyism in contemporary
Well, I'm kind of puzzled because I was at a meeting at Liberty Hall the other day, and this Rasta man came in with his big, fat, misshapen white wife. So I'm kind of puzzled. I don't know what they think.
Yeah.
And, someone was on the radio last night. I think it was Cliff Hughes, and they were claiming that the Rastafarianism came out of Africa, and he said, no, he came out of Jamaica, and he is so right, because it was the Ethiopian World Federation that was formed. And when that guy, oh boy,
Malaku Bayan?
Howell, who was drummed out of the organization because of his rudeness and arrogance towards Marcus Garvey. And he came to Jamaica. He came home to Jamaica, and he formed the Rastafarians, which was the children. Rastafarians were children's organization. And all he knew how to do was to form the children's organization, the Rastafarians. But the Rastafarians in New York were they were very disciplined and very beautiful and wore beautiful Ethiopian, those white uniforms with white dresses with beautiful trim. But now when they come home here, what they look like, God knows what. Because, did you know about a man named Manosi Safar?
Oh, yeah, we know about Manosi Safar, but you can explain to the audience that we would ask you a couple more questions about Manosi.
Yeah. Well, Manosi Safar, believe me, any black man who thought he was going to cross the main step to come in threshold of the Liberty Hall at 169 West 133rd Street, with his hair longer than, the eighth of an inch, looking smooth and sharp. Manosi would take that police, what do you call it?
Baton.
That police billy, or I forgot the name of the word that you call it.
Baton.
But he'd beat you to death. You couldn't come in his organization with the hair. Oh, my God.
Or drunk or anything else. You had to come with a certain almost pedigree.
Yes.
Now, for those who don't know, there's a prominent picture on the internet of Manosi Safar. It's just a picture of an unknown Garveyite in front of the Garvey Club, and he has like his little kufi on and a goatee.
Yes.
But that's who she's referring to. A picture that many people don't know who it is.
Oh, that man was disciplined. We children didn't play. And when you say discipline to people today, they think you mean, I don't want to belong to that because, it was wonderful. The discipline and respect that Manosi Safar brought into the organization was something that you could treasure all your life. You knew how to carry yourself in the common term. Behave yourself, because a lot of young black people don't like the word behave. But we behaved ourselves. We knew how to carry ourselves because of people like Manosi Safar. The nice thing about it, when he got old and he was in a home, my husband went to visit him, and he asked me to make some of those caps for him, and I was so glad I could do that, But he was a wonderful, wonderful man.
I wanted
to... Garvey.
Yeah, I wanted to... Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you.
No, that's all right.
I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about the influence of Garveyism, second, third generation, etc., on youth. And we were looking at, I wanted you to describe, I guess, your relationship with Tupac Shakur.
That's my grandson.
Right.
He comes to be my grandson because my daughter, Saida Samad Shakur, was married to Lumumba Shakur. They belong to the
Black Panther.
The group.
Black Panther Party.
Yes, thank you, darling. He was big in the Black Panther Party, and he became my grandson when his father, my daughter's husband, boy, this sounds like a mess, introduced him to me in front of Mr. Mashour's bookstore. He said, "Hey, Ma, this is your grandson." And I said, "Well, as good looking as he is, I don't mind. Pretty little boy." But Afeni, she has not called me back as she promised me, so I'm going to tell you the truth. She was my son-in-law's second lady. My daughter's, she was like a concubine in their marriage. And she gave birth to this lovely little boy. And he was introduced to me by his father as my grandson. I have a gorgeous picture of him here, great big picture. And just about the time that I was trying to get to him to come over on the weekends and teach the children here, what he knew, his rapping, and that's when he was murdered. People say he was killed. He wasn't killed. He was murdered. But anyway, he's my grandson.
Yes, ma'am.
And I carry his picture in my wallet. Oh, my dear. We have, I don't know how you young people feel about reparations. I don't mind repatriation because Africa is truly beautiful. I've been through both West and East. It's really beautiful, and they're allowing the Chinese and all kinds of people to take over. But this business of going and sitting before the white man to ask him for money because he did something to your ancestors, I'm not too happy about that, because you see, where the white man puts his money, he follows it. He doesn't give 2 cents that he doesn't follow to get back 4 cents, Absolutely. So I don't approve of it. And right now, the Jamaican youth, they're very much into, he's got to pay us for what he did to our ancestors. Well, as far as I'm concerned, darling, my people have become wonderful people, an asset to the world. My doctors, my lawyers, my pilots, air pilots, my teachers, my nurses, they're fabulous. See, I don't have to go and ask no white man to pay me back for what he did to my ancestors, because the thing that my ancestors went through is a gift from God to tell us who the hell to stay away from. But we didn't take it that way, Stay away from those people. And then you can get your head screwed back on right.
Yes, ma'am.
So going to him to ask him for money. A couple of people will buy a few cars and, live high on the hog, but the rest of us wouldn't get anything out of it anyway. So let him keep what he's made, because that's his problem that he has to deal with. But, I don't know. I'm old, so the way I think is different. But I think it's almost embarrassing to me to know that I must go before the white man and say, you need to give me some money. Because one good thing about it, a lot of us have made a lot of money. And as every Saturday when I sit and I listen to the people out there in the world, the Jamaicans who make millions off jerk food sets and jamming and reggae. God, we're making money. We've come out of Africa to make this white man's money. Give something back. You know, I'm very annoyed at all these black Jamaicans out there making money. Why don't you get together and put some money and pay up Jamaica's bills? You know, one time, pay it up and threaten them. If you make any more bills like that, you know, we're going to make you pay us back. Some big bank. But the thing, darling, there's enough black people out there making money to pay up. I mean, and I'm talking about Jamaicans only. To pay Jamaica's bills, keep the IMF off our backs. You know, but we make all this jerk money and this reggae money and this, you know, and we buy cars and we buy houses. Let's pay up a big bill, whatever it is.
This is WPFW 89.3 FM. I mix what I like. This is Dr. Haight, co-hosting for Dr. Jared Ball. Be back next week with us. We've been live in studio with Mwariama Kamau. We've had the blessing of having Queen Mother Mariamne Samad online with us from Kingston, Jamaica. And we got Brother Quito Swan, associate professor at Howard University. I want to thank all of you, our guests, for coming on with us, and we will continue the Black Power Garveyite discussion, 100th anniversary celebration of the founding of the UNIA next week. You can catch us 10 to 11 on Fridays. Up next, we got Gloria Minot with the news. And we thank you all for listening. And thank you again, Brother Mwariama, for making that interview happen. Legendary historical work that you're doing. We want to keep it. Ancestors protecting you. Make sure that you continue to do that work. To the world, we say thank you. See you soon in the world.
And unearned privileges and advantages to some so that others cannot compete on an equal basis for the resources of this country.
Our people have resisted for 413 years in this wilderness, and they resisted for this generation to carry out what must be done. We cannot fail our ancestors.
There's already so much evidence that we are waking up, beginning to acknowledge the reality. Something stinks.
If we are going to have to fight, we're going to have to struggle, we're going to have to struggle relentlessly to bring about the peace, because the people that we asking for peace, they're a bunch of megalomaniac warmongers, and they don't even understand what peace means. So we've got to fight them, we've got to struggle with them, and they don't understand what peace means.
Everybody knows that all the people gonna have liberty, all the people gonna have freedom, all the people gonna have justice, and all the people gonna have power, but that means none of us do. Take this country and change it. Turn it upside down and put the last first and the first last.
The preservation of history is a primary responsibility of any people.
There is only one answer, only one answer. Revolution. Full revolution.